Welcome. My name is Gena Timberman, and you are listening to Timber People, a podcast about people who, like timber, are strong, build and create, who gather us together like fuel that feeds fire. People who support structures of our community that uplift and protect.
Hello and welcome to the show. Really happy today and honored to welcome the Oklahoma Arts Institute at Quartz Mountain. Today we have on the show Rob Ward, who is the president and CEO, and my friend Kara Keeton, the director of development. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so glad to be here.
Thanks, Gena. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. We have a lot to talk about, and you have a really important mission. I know that the good work that you do not only reaches out to artists and educators throughout the state, but the influence is really affecting over, would you say, 50,000 students every year?
Yeah, it's humbling to be in the position that we are, Kara and I, to work for the Arts Institute that's been around for going on 48 years now.
Right.
And has a great reputation, but the work that we do is really the same work that we were doing 48 years ago, which is uplifting students, supporting teachers, and really trying to be a piece of the greater system within the state to support arts and education across the state. So it really is a humbling office to sit in and a humbling place to work, but we're so proud of the work we do and the impact that we see across the state.
Really, it's important and impactful, like you said, and you're both native Oklahomans, and the Arts Institute has this long-standing legacy of producing, some really incredible talent, and your alumni base is really cool too.
Yeah, it really is. And Kara has a great story just yesterday you might want to shine some light on.
Oh, yeah. Talking about alumni, specifically.
Tony Prado, was that his name?
Yes. So
Tony?
I reached out. We have an anthology that was created, and I've been going through to connect with those who participated, who were a part of this anthology. And I connected with a man named Tony, who's in his 60s now, but he was at the Institute, and he is now in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he has, he's an MC. He's done super successful in his career. He now wants to, be a part of hosting us, an event for us. But he talks about how the Arts Institute changed the direction of his life. And now he's living proof of that, almost 50 years later. Mm-hmm. So,
of course, the famous names pop in there, Megan Mullally and Tim Blake Nelson, and some people that have really achieved, notoriety. But it's those stories that you kind of bump into along the way that really fill me up when you hear somebody that said, I attended that 30 years ago, but it really put me on a direction to what I'm doing now. And that's just a reminder that, we're lucky to be at this intersection of youth and art that really can send somebody in a direction that they didn't see coming.
Absolutely. Working with the state for many years, I really was able to witness these arts warriors like Betty Price and others, the Ken Fergusons of the world and others that would really volunteers and, just great committed staff members of the state really fight for the arts in Oklahoma and the ripple effects that has in our lives collectively and individually, but what it means for economic development and identity for areas all over the state. It's really important that our arts are supported at the federal level. I know that you have strong partnerships with the National Endowment for the Arts, especially with the Oklahoma Arts Council, our State Department of Education, our state parks. And so that's a lot to champion, but it's important. And I really appreciate the work that you're doing in that regard.
Thank you. I think a lot of people don't realize what a unique entity the Arts Institute is nationally. Mm-hmm. There are things called governor's schools across the nation, which are similar in a way, but they often take place on an academic campus. And it was from the very first ideas of the Arts Institute. It was important to Mary Frates and the founders that it take place in a natural setting. Mm-hmm. So our partnership with the Tourism and Recreation Department to host our events and our programs at Quartz Mountain State Park is a real game changer, and not just, for the people that attend, but in terms of a model across the nation. So I think when we've connected with people in other governor's schools and other similar programs, whether it's Interlochen or Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp, and a lot of them are just really envious of what we have here in Oklahoma. And then the invited guests we bring in to teach, they all leave just blown away. Right. And they're like, please have me back. I would come back. They had no idea what they were getting into. They landed in Oklahoma City, and we put them in a vehicle and drove them 2 hours west, and the mountains pop up and the lake pops out, and they just go, what is this?
Right.
And then they leave with this sense of, having their own bit of pride in Oklahoma when they go back to wherever they came from.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought up Mary Frates. I was going to bring up today in the show the connection with Creative Oklahoma, and I had the great pleasure of serving as the chair for the World Creativity Forum when it was held in Oklahoma, and serving on the board. But before we did that, I had so much fun and just an incredible experience going over to Germany with Mary Frates and awesome people like Susan McCalma, and just really learning about the vision they had for Creative Oklahoma, and being a part of that, and being with those who have really committed so much time, effort, energy, investment into the arts like Mary Frates. It's just been really great to witness personally, but also professionally throughout my career. And she and I always like to talk about our late beloved, Senator Kerr out of Altus, and just was a dear friend and mentor. And I know how much your program meant to him, and the commitment that he had to that as well. He was a champion for what's now the First Americans Museum, but he was a leader for the arts. He was a leader for Oklahomans, and she and I always like to talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, our Performing Arts Center there at Quartz Mountain bears his name, and right. Of course, we're saddened by the passing of Lou recently. But yes. It's the word advocacy sounds like such an easy word, like it's just easy to be an advocate. It's not. It takes a lot of really hard work and passion and commitment to a cause. And so when the names you just mentioned, they all just, exemplify that to me, Betty Price and Mary Frates and et cetera, of the people that were willing to stick behind their values and what they believed in and make something happen. Because, if we're going on 48 years, and that's remarkable for an arts organization.
Right. I say that Oklahoma was this collision of cultures. If you think about tribes and Western heritage and, so many different diverse aspects of our state's history and our identity and presence today. Today, we're a collaboration of cultures, and we really, as Oklahomans, can't do anything in siloed efforts. That through the arts and our museums and education especially, we're able to connect areas of the state in ways they cannot be connected. And so it's really important.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, I think that's where my passion comes with, knowing that art creates culture. Mm-hmm. And culture creates connection. Right. And I think right now we so deeply need that in our society. Ways that are safe places that we can come together, be it through art, performance, poetry, drawing, the things that we do at OAI that really bring the students together and give them that sense of belonging, which is so important for our students today.
Absolutely. Through the relationships you're developing. This is an intense program. All of your programs, I've known about the Arts Institute in the summer, and, I've been very familiar with your program for a number of years, but it's intense and it's thoughtful and just really well programmed. And the friendships and the opportunities that come out of those experiences in working with professionals over the course of the year and planning and executing really important programs like that. It's meaningful. And I know that you have partnerships with tribes as well today.
Well, and I have to give so much credit to our staff, and Emily Claudet, our Vice President of Programs, and Alyssa, who works with programs as well, and the rest of our staff at really embracing the quality aspect and holding ourselves to a certain high standard to deliver the best experience we can for our participants, whether it's the Summer Arts Institute for the students or the Fall Arts Institute for teachers. And just last summer, one of my favorite moments was a Friday night, and Jeffrey Palmer, who's sort of a Kiowa citizen and teaches at Cornell University. We invited him down to be a guest artist and screen a film on Scott Momaday, who had a wonderful relationship with the Arts Institute, another person who we've lost this year that was just something to mourn, but also an opportunity to celebrate his work. So he came down to screen the Scott Momaday film, and Emily said, we always have the Black Leggings Warrior Society come present the flag before our orchestra concert, but it feels like perhaps we should do that tonight, given the connectivity of, Kiowa filmmaker, Kiowa subject, et cetera. And he said, yeah, that makes sense. So the Black Leggings were there, and we're able to talk about Scott Momaday and do the flag presentation. Jeffrey screened his film. And then we always do a Q&A, and the first student who stood up was Dohasan Sunray, who's a member of our creative writing class.
Yeah,
and he asked his question in Kiowa.
Yeah, great young man.
And then translated for the rest of us and said, basically intimated, this is the first time I've been in a situation in a public setting, a statewide setting, where the Kiowa culture was celebrated in this way, and the amount of impact that had on him. And then I leaned over to Emily and I said, Emily, you created this, and you're the kind of person that wouldn't take credit for it, but it was your work and your effort and your vision to bring all of these pieces together that made this moment. And that's the kind of effort that goes in every summer and every fall to, creating an experience for the participants that come to take part in what the Arts Institute is.
It's really great. It's special to be there in the energy of that. I've attended before, not as a participant, but taking part in aspects of some of the program. But I really appreciate the energy that the Arts Institute brings to that fellowship that we have cross-culturally, and just being there with everyone, but also that special place. You feel like you're in another world being at Quartz Mountain. And I think there's a magic to that, to what you're doing there as well.
Absolutely. I mean, just going down there, I know I'm newer to the organization, but my first experience last fall was powerful, just to be among the adults that were there that weekend, and just to feel their energy that was palpable. And just to know that so many are walking, it's life-changing while you're there. And the environment is so important. I can't imagine going anyplace else. Just being surrounded by the mountains and the water, and just having that nature element is so key to, I think, the fullness of impact of our programs.
Right.
There's a lot that's just sort of erased when you show up. There's the status, whatever that means to you, goes away, and you're there to pursue the love of your art. And then you get to meet people that are pursuing the love of their art, and you start to see the way those things intersect, and the way cultures and communities and people intersect within that. And it really kind of erases a lot of what exists in the world. The sad part is everybody has to go back to that, but hopefully they take with them that ideal of what it can be. And then they take that to their classrooms, and they take that into their, what they choose to do in their post-secondary education, if they're a student, whatever the case may be. But they're holding on to that little bit of, that special energy that you mentioned, that what they pick up at the Arts Institute.
Absolutely. I feel like there's something special too about the procession of coming into the experience and then driving out. And it's kind of that space that before you get back into that real, there's something about that too. And I know that, as I mentioned, you're both native Oklahomans, and you've been involved in the arts and the community in different ways. And you have a great heritage of being a participant in the programs throughout your life. And how does it feel, Rob, to come full circle and be the president and CEO now?
It's overwhelming, but I feel honored to be sort of the shepherd at this time.
Absolutely.
For the Arts Institute. But I grew up in McAllister, and there were so many great people that pursued art and that supported art. Wanda Bass comes to mind, was a big advocate for me. Of course, she was instrumental in what OCU has become in terms of their music. But it was my dad that really kind of forced me. He said, I'm going to make you take choir. I'm going to make you do these things. And I said, I begrudgingly did those things. But he knew how to challenge me. He said, there's this really important program in Oklahoma. It's really difficult to get into. You probably won't get into it. And he knew that was the button to push to say, okay, let's try. And so I auditioned and was fortunate to make it. And it was after those 2 weeks that I said, oh, I see a future for myself in the arts. Right. As a singer, as a choir director, which I eventually became. I didn't know what it looked like at that point, but I saw the pathway. I saw the kind of people I wanted to surround myself with. I saw the kind of energy I wanted to be involved in. And without that, I think I would have continued to pursue it, but I'd probably be doing something very different today. So yeah, I was a teacher for nearly 20 years. And because I had summers off, I did all sorts of things in the summer to support the Arts Institute, whether it was a counselor or technical director and different jobs in the summer, just because I feel like I owe a debt to the Arts Institute for the place it put me in my life.
I feel like we all should feel like whatever was meaningful for us in forming that identity that we have. I think that we all should feel that sense of commitment to that reciprocity. It's like that feeding it back in. It's like a body, a human body, when it breathes out, and you're taking from that. If you don't breathe something back into it, it would die. And so it keeps the programs alive. And these are programs that are magical. I mean, they're fun, for one. And I know championing them is not always easy with the funding in our state at times and in the country, but they're important. But when you're learning and you're having fun, that's where the magic really happens. And so I'm really grateful for the work that you all are doing to create the magic. And Kara, we met at Oklahoma State University, and it's really great to be reconnected. I appreciate you reaching back out to me and about the show. And we have so many mutual friends. And I was saying the other day that you're the right person to be out in this community to promote working with Rob and the other awesome staff members that you have. And how does it feel being, connected to the program in the way that you are with development these days? Well, it feels so deeply aligned to who I am. So I took a break when I had my son and I was at home and built a business for the last 10 years. I've been in, I've had my hand in the arts and in philanthropy really throughout my career. But now to be so connected to this work that's so meaningful, being connected to students' lives. So my heart really beats for what we're facing right now in mental health. My own son has autism and I am watching him. So I can give him markers and paper or paints, and I literally can watch him visibly change. His nervous system begins to calm down. He becomes regulated. And there's a new body of research called neuroarts, neuroaesthetics that we talked about. Yes. There's a great book that came out last year called Your Brain on Art. And they've done a lot of research, and science is showing that just having one art experience a month for a minimum of 30 minutes can prolong your life by 10 years. Right. And so if you think about just the effects that art can have on the physiology of our bodies, and just, again, when I look at teenagers today and just the mental health challenges that they're all facing, right. I think we have such an opportunity to provide a place of nourishing their gifts and their talents and their creativity, and also, giving them a sense of belonging, right. which we all, at the human core of who we are, desire. And so that's what OAI, I think, really, I feel so honored to be a part of this mission. That's even just, growing and evolving. So thank you for the question. Oh, absolutely. That cross-disciplinary relationship with mental health and awareness, as well as, we've been talking about it a great deal we have an Oklahoma Museums Association Wellbeing Committee, and we've been working, thankfully, with the Chickasaw Nation to identify resources, and working with great committee members on that, and the Arts Council and others, to connect that of what museums mean, what the arts mean, to our ways of life and the quality of life that we have from a holistic perspective, from many different avenues. And I know that it's been really cool to see that relationship of the arts and STEM programs. And, I remember Stan Hupfeld was working with Jared Tate and thinking outside the box and engaging scientists with the music. And it was really cool. And so I love to see what is happening. And I know that right now we're in, the legislative session, and And, I've said this before that many people think, well, I'm not really involved in politics, but I believe that everyone is involved in politics, and it's important that our citizens reach out to your legislators, your Senate members, your House members, and really express as a citizen what the arts mean to your children, to your family, to your school, to your community, because they really need to be hearing that at the Capitol right now to support these programs.
Absolutely. And it's so easy to look when you get to the Capitol, sort of at black and white issues of like where is the money? How is it being generated? What is the workforce development? But you also have to question, what is the quality of work that you're getting from students? And is there a creative and aesthetic aspect to what they're generating? It's not just spreadsheets, right? I forget, I wish I could remember the legislator who said this last session, but she said, we don't want to live in a smokestack state, right? Which is just, brown buildings and concrete things that make money, but we want it to be beautiful. We want it to be aesthetically pleasing. We want it to be creative. And whether a student studying the arts becomes a professional artist or not, they're taking the lessons they've learned and that appreciation and eye for aesthetics and creativity with them into whatever field they go to. And that's the kind of work that we want coming out of Oklahoma. Not just simply, spreadsheets and bottom lines, but creates creative, effective, and meaningful product.
We've come a long way with our public art and with thinking outside of the box with different programs, and see it happening in tribes a lot too. Chickasaw Nation with their Arts Academy, and other tribes, what they're doing as well. My tribe, Choctaw Nation, and so many others. Really awesome to see. And, thinking about the history of the Arts Institute at Quartz Mountain, I was reading, the first, wasn't it up near Tahlequah?
The pilot, if you will, was 1977 in Tahlequah, and it was really, hey, we have this idea, let's just try it out. And so it was very few students, and I think they were kind of grabbing them from wherever they could find. But again, that initial sort of motivation to have it in a beautiful space was a huge part of the founding. That happened to be the same summer as the Girl Scout murders that were near Tahlequah. And so after that summer, Mary Frates and others said, we have to find the safest place possible to do this. And so they went all across the state and finally landed on Quartz Mountain. And that, you mentioned the drive in and how inspiration that is. Well, it's also just one road in and one road out. So it's a little easier to control traffic and make sure it's a safe place for the students and participants to be there, so that they can just focus on the creative aspect of it.
Right. Yeah. I was reading also, you said Megan Mullally was in the first class. Was that right?
Not the first, but early. And she actually studied mime. We no longer offer mime, but that was the early acting class, if you will. So she was a part of that.
And I know that Maria Tallchief was a part of the program as well. So cool. I think a lot of people may not realize that.
She was the first ballet instructor, along with, in fact, when her dollar came out last year, I ordered a little bag of them that I keep in my office to give people when they come to visit us, and just share, that little shared piece of history. But not just Maria, but all of the 5 Native ballerinas have taught at the Arts Institute. And it's always been a huge part of our program to invite Native artists. We have a long, deep relationship with Fritz Scholder, who spoke and did many things at our institute. Marwan Begay most recently. Jeffrey Palmer's coming back after his visit last summer as a guest artist. He said, I've got to come back. So he's going to be our full film instructor this summer. So we're, those two things are so interconnected within our state, Native culture, arts, and what I admire about it is the way Native artists are at the same time honoring and preserving their history and their culture while also pushing the boundaries on new art. I think that's a challenge that not every artist faces, of how to wrestle with those two very important things. And I really admire the work that comes out. I actually was a student with Yataka Fields at the Arts Institute. And so we ran into Yataka recently, and I just love the work that he's doing. But you can see those historical, cultural elements within his work, but it's also so modern and so pushing the boundaries in certain ways. And I admire that about, modern Native artists in the way that they are looking to uphold a long-standing tradition, but then also push the envelope and become their own artist.
Absolutely. We're seeing so much in the art world from, fashion design and what's happening in music and film and theater and just public art pieces and programs with the tribes. And so I know it's all interconnected, and I know, it's the work you're doing is really supporting that passion and influence and collaboration. So I want to say thank you. And if the listener wants to learn more about your programs and how to support, where would they, what website would you like for them to visit?
www.oaiquartz.org.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much for being on the show.
Gena.
And would love to have you back sometime to give an update on the awesome things you're doing.
We'd be honored. There are always great stories to tell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yakoki, thank you for joining us. Timber People is brought to you by the Possibilities Podcast platform.